our lesson today is about trusting God to provide for us in every way. So that's going to be wonderful. I love my joke today. It's one of my favorites. So a father was reading Bible stories to his young son, and Lot was warned to take his wife and flee from the city. But his wife looked back and turned to a pillar of salt. And the son scrunched up his face and looked at his dad and said, "What happened to the flea?" Did you get that? Lot was warned to take his wife and flee from the city. What happened to the flea? What happened to the flea? Okay. So, flat broke at age of 21, Joe Cherie read The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. How many of you have read that book? Years and years ago. It was just such a great seller. And he made a list of 10 things he wanted to accomplish. And his number one goal was to own his own health club and make it respected in the community. He had other goals too, and one by one he achieved them. Along the way, he did build a health and fitness empire, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But he's a rags to riches story. He grew up poor in New York, and he moved from New York to Florida, where he got a job working in a health club, which kind of inspired him to have this idea, I could have a health club. His paycheck bounced when the club folded, and at the time, he made his car payment only by getting the deposit back on his apartment when he moved out, and now he was living in his car because he'd given up his apartment, and he was showering at the gyms where he was working, sleeping and showering at the various places he was working in the health clubs. He spent, one day he believes destiny, not calamity, presented itself when the owner of the health club where he was working told him he was about to declare bankruptcy and that the club would be evicted in the next 30 days. And so Joe thought, this is my opportunity to own a health club. And he had to achieve his goal, he had to raise money, find a new location, get permits, move the equipment, and somehow keep running the club and keep all the existing members happy while he did that. And he did accomplish that. So our parable today is about the rich fool. I love this thing where the barns are filled to overflowing. And we'll come back to Joe and we'll see how he fares in light of this teaching. The parable of the rich fool is found in the Gospel of Luke. And I want to share it with us this morning. So it has a lot of beautiful passages in it. Some you may recognize, some you may go, I never knew that's where that came from. So let's see how you do. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Friend, who set me to be a judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care, be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions." Then he told them a parable. The land of a rich man produced abundantly, and he thought to himself, "What should I do? For I have no place to store all my crops." Then he said, "I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and all my goods. And I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry.'" Did you know that came from Scripture? Eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich toward God." He said to the disciples, "Therefore I tell you," and then some very beautiful passages next about when you're thinking things are overwhelming and where will I turn or how will this work out? You have to take these into your heart. He said, "I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Consider the ravens. They neither sow nor reap. They have no storehouse to gather their goods into, yet God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than the birds?" And that's where I'd really take issue, because there's sacred life in everything. And I don't know that we're more important than the birds, but anyway, I digress. And can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? If then you are not able to do so small a thing as that, why do you worry about the rest? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you that Solomon in all of his glory was not clothed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grasses of the field, which is alive today and tomorrow thrown into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, you of little faith? And do not keep striving for what you are to eat and what you are to drink, and do not keep worrying, for it is the nations of the world that strive after all these things, and your Father knows that you need them. Instead, strive for his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So, lots going on in that. I love those verses. One of my favorite. Consider the lilies of the field. They neither toil nor spin, and yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of those. They're just there, shining, giving off beauty and love to the earth. Well, where am I here? In ancient times, the firstborn was guaranteed a double portion of the family's inheritance. So it's likely that the man that was coming to ask Jesus to tell him to have his family divide the inheritance was not the oldest son that was going to get all of the inheritance, right? Jesus says, why should I arbitrate for your family? He refuses to arbitrate the dispute and gets to the heart of the matter, speaking about greed and a consciousness of acquisitiveness, of gathering things. He's going to teach us that you have to develop a consciousness of abundance, which is alive and dynamic and ever producing for you. He shared there was a rich man, where am I here? Yeah, he shared there was a rich man whose land produced abundantly, so abundantly that he had no place to store all of his crops. So he decided to tear down his barns and build bigger ones to store all of his stuff. And then he said, like the slide, you can relax, eat, drink, and be merry. Just check out. You never have to worry about anything again. And we'll see later in the message, you have to keep your consciousness active. You can't just lapse in your faith and think you're set for the rest of your life. But God said to him, you fool, this very night your soul will be required of you. So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves and are not rich toward God. The phrase, you fool, emphasizes that it's futile to put your trust in material possessions, right? And that it says, and I don't know if I read that passage, to put your faith in things that rust and moth and dust consume. Things that will rust out over time, the moths will come in and eat it, dust will land on it and deteriorate it. You don't put your faith in those kinds of things. Rather, harvesting and growing your soul into a consciousness of abundance, which is eternal. That's what we're to strive for, developing and growing ourselves in a prosperity consciousness, in a consciousness of health, in a consciousness of life, in an abundance of all the things that we have need of. Spirit knows and has provided those divine ideas for us to live from. So we see the rich man's plans for a secure future are interrupted by sudden death. He kills him off. And the sudden death highlights that our earthly possessions in life are temporary, and that our true wealth is found every moment in our relationship with God, in our connection to Spirit. And building a relationship with God doesn't involve storing up treasures for yourself, but storing up treasures in heaven. And heaven is consciousness. Storing up treasures in heaven means redirecting your heart from temporary earthly things, material pursuits, to shifting your affections to things that really are spiritual ideals and growing those in your consciousness. Things like gratitude, generosity, sharing, praying, trusting, serving. I put those above the guy's head since he's thinking all those things. Shift from things that pass away to thinking about spiritual ideals. How can I live this day in the truth of my being, in the truth of Spirit's being within me? So there's a phrase I've been using lately, doing good feels good. Let's put our hands on our hearts and say that. Doing good feels good. This is my friend Suzanne, who lives in, well, she's from Jamaica. She lives in Nashville. She served on my board of trustees. And when the recent storms hit Jamaica, she and her husband still own a lot of properties there, and their families are there. So Suzanne collected all of this stuff. I had a different, I don't know, I didn't think I put that second picture there, did I, Jess? Anyway, and she flew to Jamaica with duffel bags full of stuff, and this is her family kind of sorting all the stuff that she bought to take to Jamaica to share. She's a doctor, so you'll see a lot of medical blood pressure things and stuff like that. But I said to her, she sent me a text, and I said, oh, Suzanne, doing good feels good. And she said, I feel marvelous that she was able to make a difference in her community, you know. So doing good feels good. This parable coaches us not to hoard our resources, but allow them to move freely through our lives. And we store up treasures in heaven when we build a consciousness of abundance rather than a fearful, acquisitive consciousness. Rather than, I've got to hang on to this because I don't know how much I'll have eventually. And that gripping, clasping, fearful consciousness. The rich man in our story was successfully able to create a consciousness of superabundance, right? He had more than he could use, even more than he could save, and he built a consciousness that was alive and dynamic and active, and one that could serve him all the days of his life. But the story points to the idea that he needed to stay engaged with that consciousness. It says your soul will be required of you this day, that your soul is still needed in order for you to stay in the flow of abundance. We're required to keep our faith and our prayer life active, to keep our connection to Spirit. We don't just retire and never do anything again. And instead of keeping his consciousness active and strong, letting his good flow easily in and out of his life, he hoarded his good, storing it away in the belief that he had his surplus would guarantee him comfort and ease and everything for the rest of his life. But instead of circulating his good, he choked off the flow of good. His hoarding gave him a sense of security, but it was a false sense of security because he shifted his faith from sufficiency in God, from the ability of his consciousness to create anything and everything for his life, to, I've got this now, I've just got to hold on to this and stop, right? So we're seeing Jesus is teaching us this need to keep our consciousness active and engaged with Spirit. Let's see. His hoarding gave him a sense of security, but it was security in the wrong thing because it shifted his faith from sufficiency in God to a belief in material possessions. And I think it can be hard, when you've got your investments to a certain place and you think, oh, I made it, I can retire and everything's going to be good. But it doesn't mean you ever stop just living in that flow of abundance. When this man was, checking out, he says he told his soul this very night, he's told that very night his soul will be demanded of him. The challenge for the rich man was to realize that his soul, that his consciousness is the part of his being that connects him to Spirit. It's the consciousness that connects him with God, and it's that continual connection that continues to support the flow of abundance in his life. Are you with me? He had learned somewhere the power of affirmative consciousness, and that level of consciousness was producing for him. And he reaped an effortlessness of success. Once we achieve a certain level of consciousness, a certain level of prosperity consciousness, things begin to be easy. And things just happen for you. I always say money falls on me from out of the sky. And it does. So you develop that level of consciousness, and you sustain that level of consciousness in prayer. And then everything in your life begins to get easier. But if you stop that prayer life, that active, affirmative life, you're choking off, you're damming up the flow of the good that's coming to you. This man misses that he's the vital link in the flow of his supply. He misses how necessary he is in the equation. He misses that he has to keep his connection to God in order to keep the good, in order to stand in the flow and the circulation of the good. He has to allow the good to move freely and be used for good purposes if he wants the good to continue to flow. Are you with me? Once you arrive, you don't just say, eat, drink, and be merry, I'm done. You have to maintain that level of consciousness that you've achieved. And you're here every Sunday to grow that into greater abundance, greater belief, greater faith, greater trust. This parable asks the question, how can we balance the stewardship of wealth with generosity? I think I have that on a slide, Desi. And one way, I love this idea, one way that we balance the stewardship of the wealth that we have with generosity is by adopting a mindset that we are the manager versus the owner of all of our stuff, right? That everything belongs to God. Everything sources from source, from the divine substance of God. And that we're given the charge to manage it, circulate it, flow it, use it for good purposes, but we don't own it. We're not owners, we're managers of the resources that God has entrusted to us. And we're to use those gifts to receive, the gifts that we receive, we're to use them in ways that honor God further, to further the purposes of Spirit in our lives. And this doesn't mean you go out and start a charitable organization, but it means you have to think about how are you using the resources of your life, your gifts, your talents, your money, your faith. How are you using it to enrich the lives, your own life and the lives of those around you? When you think of yourself as a manager rather than an owner, it shifts the focus from personal accumulation of wealth to faithful management of all the good that comes to you. Shift your focus, I see the I, everything's about yourself. Shift your focus from personal accumulation of wealth to faithful management of all the good that comes to you. Keeping it flowing, keeping it flowing. The point being, we are not blessed by God to hoard our wealth. We are blessed by God to pay it forward, to be a blessing in the lives of others. But this man takes himself off somewhere to celebrate, and he disconnects or stops his spiritual practice, stops believing that everything, he starts believing that everything in his life is set. And he doesn't realize that, as I said earlier, that he is the necessary conduit to keep the good flowing. He just kind of checks out, well, how can God get anything, move anything in and through our lives if it's not moved in and through us, right? In and through you. Newsflash, there is no single act of consciousness that sets you up for life. You never arrive. We never arrive. That our connection to Spirit is dynamic and alive and universal, and it's always creating. You know, you can be in this place today, and if you just stop and kick back and eat, drink, and be merry, you're going to stay there, or Jesus says you're going to rust and dust and deteriorate. You're not going to even maintain where you are. You have to stay actively alive in your connection to Spirit. Now, before you feel totally exhausted when I say we never arrive, Dorothy Pearson always used to say, you never arrive, that's the silliest thing. You know, we're constantly creating, constantly becoming, constantly deepening our faith and becoming more. But once you develop a consciousness of prosperity, as I said, as you continue in your faith, you notice that things begin to flow more easily. Just the needs of your life are met, the joys of your life are fuller, things flow easily and abundantly. And you no longer earn by the sweat of the brow. You earn by right of consciousness. You've learned that this hard work, get in there and figure it out and do it all, the human self of you doing it all, isn't necessary anymore. You're earning by right of consciousness. I have a consciousness of abundance. I have a consciousness of prosperity. And when I step into that flow and stay connected to that eternal, universal Christ Spirit, things become easier. Things become abundant. And I don't have to get in there and earn by the sweat of the brow. I earn everything I want to achieve. I achieve by consciousness, by what I'm creating in my consciousness, right? Right. And once you get that level of consciousness, you can never go back. Once you achieve this level of prosperity, you can never go back unless you lapse into giving up all of your spiritual practice, all of your faith practice, all of your prayer life, and you just kick back to eat, drink, and be merry, to celebrate the fruits of your consciousness. You continue giving all the days of your life. You continue staying as that vital link with the Spirit of God. So in our story about Joe, let's see how he fares in being rich toward God, right? His dream to bring health and fitness spread. He acquired all the things from his goal sheet from when he was 21. He bought a home for his parents. He learned to fly and bought a plane. He bought a home in the mountains and a condo at the beach. He became a black belt. He traveled the world, and he saved $1 million. Now that sounds like the rich fool, accumulating all of that stuff, right? But he's using his consciousness to build the prosperity of his life. And unlike the rich man in the story, he didn't stop just building wealth. He found ways to circulate his good. He focused on two things. One, helping other people become healthy. So it wasn't just about I, me, mine. Helping other people become healthy and building a company culture that inspires people to become their best. Now he did that because his company began to offer programs that were aimed not just at promoting fitness, but alleviating a variety of chronic ailments. He pioneered the use of special exercise machines to relieve neck and lower back pain. That's not just for Joe, that's for others, right? The company was a leader in using hydrotherapy to treat arthritis. He tackled childhood obesity by holding wellness events at schools. He developed weight loss programs for teens and offered free use of the gym all summer long to teenagers, right? He also shares ownership in 2 rehabilitation centers that specialize in physical therapy. He employs over 450 people in his health and fitness centers and physical therapy locations. If he's not working or traveling, he makes time for various charitable organizations and boards like the American Heart Association, and too many others that were listed in his bio for me to share with you here. He also gives numerous in-kind and monetary donations to groups such as the Arthritis Foundation, Fight Children's Cancer, the Children's Miracle Network, Project Graduation, and various food and toy drives. And as his business has grown, so has his renown. Other club owners come to his club to learn what he's doing, and he welcomes them all. He doesn't hide or hoard what he's doing. He gives away his training manuals. He lets people follow him around. He lets them interview his employees, and he shares his best business practices. Joe is successful because he keeps circulating the good, his ideas, his training materials, his business practices, his money, his love, and he continues to freely give and to find ways to circulate more good. You can see that in the development of what he did in his health club, right? He hasn't quit. He hasn't taken early retirement. He hasn't moved to his condo on the beach to celebrate. He celebrates, he continues to create more things to celebrate rather than just, oh, I've arrived and celebrating this. He doesn't live in the past, his past accomplishments. Today he owns 3 clubs with more than 27,000 members. His mission is to inspire an entire community. Now where's the selfishness in that, right? And to become known as one of the best companies for the world. For the world. Not, I want to be known for all this. I want to create something that will enrich the world. We may never be a Joe Cherie and build a $17 million health company, from collecting his deposit on his apartment to make his car payment, to living in his car, to showering in various gyms and clubs. We might never do that. But ask yourself, where and how are you circulating the good in your life? Where are you giving your best? Your talents, your skills, your ideas, your time? Where are you using your money and your love to enrich not just your life, but paying it forward, enriching the lives of your community and those around you? I think, Jesse, that's a slide. Maybe today is the day you begin to circulate your good more freely. You hear an inspirational message and you say, well, you know what, I could do a little more. I could do a little more. Maybe today is the day you begin to circulate your good more freely. You begin to build trust in those messages. Consider the lilies of the field. They neither toil nor spin, and yet Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed like one of these. That's something you take into your heart, and you stay in connection to that with the Spirit, and you know that you'll be provided for. You shift your confidence from worldly security to spiritual security, and you increase your reliance on Spirit, not on material things. It doesn't matter how much you have saved up, because we see the guy dies, and what happens to his stuff? You know, you have all the stuff, but what happens to it? Are your heirs going to argue over it after you're gone, unless you have a clear will? Maybe today's the day you begin to circulate your good more freely. And like those beautiful verses, consider the ravens. They neither sow nor reap. They have no storehouse or barn, and yet God feeds them. How do we learn to trust that? How do we learn to stand in the faith of the practicality and the truth of that? 2 Corinthians, and God is able to provide you with every blessing in abundance, so that having all contentment in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work. Spirit is able to provide. Maybe today's the day you begin to shift your confidence from worldly security to spiritual security, so that changes in gas prices and utilities and insurance premiums can't upset you, because you know that God provides and that somehow it'll work out, like we said at the beginning. Remember when we were in the drought? And now we have rain. We have abundant rain. Our water tables are being refilled. There's an infinite intelligence that knows how to bring harmony and balance and restorative peace to our nation, our state, our world, and our lives. And we have to learn to trust that. Does this mean then if you move from material security into spiritual security, that you cancel your health and spend your life savings, cancel your health insurance, cancel your retirement plan, and just live free-falling on God? It doesn't say any of that. This parable makes no recommendation for you to dismantle the security and supply you already have in place. What it does is it makes the point that the place to store up all that goodness is in the heavens, in your consciousness, where it's eternal, where you create from that in a way that's eternal. So you can be rich toward God, rich in thought, rich in ideas, rich in connection to Spirit, which creates goodness that never fails. Once you acquire it in consciousness, you can't go back. The only way you would go back is to just abandon your faith completely and lapse into eat, drink, and be merry, right? So our affirmation today as we close, put your hands on your heart. Doing good feels good. Doing good feels good. I give and receive with a glad heart, and I am prosperous. We want to live in that consciousness, that universal goodness, and pay it forward. So let's take that into a time of prayer. We want to include the beloved members of our community who are in need of our blessing for healing, because our word for today is healing. Taking good care of myself supports my healing. And let's center into our heart space and think about your own consciousness. How big is it? How open is it? How connected are you? How linked in are you? Not the internet app LinkedIn, but in your heart, how linked are you to the Spirit of God to provide, to flow the good for your life? Our scripture, the words that I have spoken to you are spirit and are life. And our affirmation is, I place myself and all that concerns me lovingly in the hands of the Father, lovingly in the heart of the Mother. So feel after that. I place myself and all that concerns me lovingly in the hands of the Father. Let's affirm it. I place myself and all that concerns me lovingly in the hands of the Father, and lovingly in the heart of the Mother. Together. And lovingly in the heart of the Mother. So take a deep breath in and exhale it out. Let your shoulders, roll your shoulders down and back. Let your jaw relax and your face muscles relax. As we join together in this prayer, we acknowledge that the Christ Spirit is alive in love before us. And it wants only our healing, only our wholeness in every dimension. So I invite you to picture an essence, an image, a feeling that represents the divine to you. And then feel this dynamic presence as present to you. Maybe it's a nudge in the back of your neck and your top shoulders. Maybe it's a feeling in your heart. Maybe it's a feeling, a sense of an ethereal presence near you. But know that it listens with total attention and compassion, and never for a moment judges you. So from the silence of your own heart, from the depths of whatever you're meeting in your life right now, in the silence of your own mind and heart, say exactly what you are feeling and what you need as simply as possible. Driving here today, I needed my windshield to be clear, fogged up and I couldn't see. As simple as, help me, God, clear my windshield. Say exactly what you are feeling and what you need, as simply as possible. And let yourself be frank and shameless, as unedited as possible. Don't hide any feelings inside you. Expose them without fear to that Christ Spirit that is within you. And as you express your need with perfect certainty that you are accepted in all of your present circumstances, you find almost immediately that whatever burden you're carrying is lightened. It's lifted up, lifted off of you. And imagine that image of the divine that you have chosen as you stand facing it. See it begin to emit a stream of radiant white light that streams from it straight to you and washes over you. washes over all those for whom we're praying in our ministry. This light is the light of the divine. It's the power of divine love. It's the power of divine healing. It's the power of divine prosperity. And it has absolute effectiveness in all situations. It can heal and transform anything because it streams directly from the Godhead to you. To you. So you let this light enter into you and wash you free from all difficulties, illnesses, concerns. And it illuminates joy, love, peace, health for your body, prosperity for your affairs. I place myself and all that concerns me lovingly in the hands of the Father. Again, I place myself and all that concerns me lovingly in the hands of the Father, lovingly in the heart of the Mother. Together, lovingly in the heart of the Mother. We turn our thoughts and our love to those in our ministry and our family and friends and loved ones. We see them receiving this same light that streams directly from the Godhead. We see it moving, adjusting, and blessing them in infinite ways, in intimate ways. Exactly what they need is streaming to them. They can feel it. They can feel our prayers for them. You place yourself lovingly in the hands of the Father. You place yourself lovingly in the heart of the Mother. And we know our loved ones are blessed. The words that I have spoken to you are spirit and are life. For this time of listening within, for this time of recentering ourselves in the Christ presence, we give thanks. And together we all say, Amen.